Sports Network, ESPN 94.9, The Fan.
30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee. It's the George Plaster Show, featuring Tennessee Sports Hall of Famers Kelly Holcomb and young gun Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in. It is, what is it? It would be a, what would we call it? Kind of a cloudy, overcast Tuesday in Nashville. As you can tell, we're at the old rec room. There's an event going on at the Ford Ice Center. And so we're in our respective rec rooms, ready and raring to go. Let's say hello to Billy Derrick, bring him up here. Billy, are you aware of what today is?
What is today?
Canadian Independence Day.
Oh, is it really?
Sure is. The only reason I know that is because I turned on the Yankees Blue Jays game. So the Blue Jays are wearing red, which is not the color they normally wear. And the entire crowd at whatever they used to be called Sky Dome. I don't know what it is now. But there are about 50,000 people wearing red. It's pretty cool.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
Yeah. You learn something all the time. You hang with me.
Yeah. Maybe I'll do that.
So I'll give you another little nugget that a friend of mine passed on to me. The Nashville Predators, do not be surprised if they make an offer sheet to center Marco Rossi from the Minnesota Wild. He is a restricted free agent, but the Wild apparently not willing to pay him what he wants in a new contract. So remember, you heard that. Yeah.
I'll remember that. We have some other Preds news in the update as we hop right in to that update. It's brought to you by X Golf. Step into the future of golf with X Golf. Experience the world's most accurate golf simulator and elevate your game like never before. Book your tee time now at playxgolf.com. Don't miss out on their restaurant and bar. Ice cold beers on tap, craft cocktails, fine wines, and much more. Check out their new location out in Franklin at 209 South Royal Oaks. Well, it's been a quieter day today than it was this time last year for the Predators. They have made a move. They've signed Tampa Bay defenseman Nick Perbix to a 2-year deal worth $5.5 million. He's 27 years old. He was a 6th-round draft pick by the Tampa Bay Lightning back in 2017. Made his debut back in 2022. He has scored 13 goals and 50 assists in 220 games over the last few seasons with the Lightning. So pretty solid pickup for Trotz and company.
Bring it on. And bring on more.
Yeah, they may need a little bit more of where that came from. So the Preds make a move with Nick Perbix. Keep you guys updated if anything else happens with Nashville. We've also got some NBA news. The Sacramento Kings, not the LA Kings, they have agreed to a $45 million deal with Dennis Schroeder. So we've got that out there, of course, with NBA free agency rolling along. There was also a move made for Jakob Poeltl as my computer begins to slow down. The Raptors have reached a $104 million extension with Jakob Poeltl. So big move there for Toronto. Speaking of Canada Day.
Hold on. Stop there for a minute. Are they dealing in monopoly money?
That's what it sounds like.
Give me the name of the guy you just threw out there.
Jakob Poeltl.
Okay, I've heard of him before, but $104 million? I mean,
Unbelievable.
They throw money out there like it's going out of style, and I guess their TV package allows that to happen. Isn't the bigger news though what Milwaukee just did?
Yeah, the Bucks have waived Damian Lillard and have agreed with Miles Turner. They've reached a deal with Miles Turner, so he agreed to the Bucks on a 4-year, $107 million deal that does include a player option. So no more Damian Lillard in Milwaukee.
Well, first of all, Milwaukee is falling apart, and there's no telling where this is going. Before it's over, Giannis may look around and go, "This is one Greek boy smarter than the guy in Nashville. I'm getting the hell out of here." That's one thought. I can't figure out. Look, I know it's really good money, but when you're up into those kind of numbers, don't you take a little less to go with a team that's going to win? I'm aiming that at Miles Turner.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that the NBA, it just feels like every offseason, there's so much that happens that you almost get turned off to a little bit of it, especially with all the money that is being thrown around. But yeah, that's and we've already got a new home for Kevin Durant, a new home now. We don't know where he's going to land, but Damian Lillard out of Milwaukee, so we'll see what happens there.
Well, if I was going to speculate, and certainly I would not do that, how about Dallas?
That would be interesting. If I'm
How,
Dallas, I look into that.
how about the Lakers? The Lakers, that might free up the opportunity to go ahead and deal Austin Reeves. And it kind of feels like Austin Reeves is gone a year from now, no matter what. It also feels like LeBron may be retiring at the end of the year. But who
Mhm.
knows? I know this. Damian Lillard is a stud.
He absolutely is. So we'll see where Damian Lillard lands. Tennessee has picked up a few commitments today. It's a big day on the recruiting trail for Tennessee. They've picked up a commit from linebacker T.J. White, commits to the Vols over Florida State, Auburn, and Mississippi State. Also, one of the top defensive linemen, Darian Albert, commits to the Vols over North Carolina. And there was also a local commitment to Tennessee, Jamian Theodore from the Baylor School down in Chattanooga, as that's how they're referring to themselves now. Chooses Tennessee over Wisconsin and others. So that's 3 commits on the day for Tennessee. Vanderbilt also just picked up a commit from Trip Skews, a 3-star who chose Vanderbilt over offers from Colorado, Texas Tech, and North Carolina. 6'7", 300-pounder. So that's a big get for Vanderbilt. So some recruiting going around, and Tennessee gets a few of them. And I'm sure we'll be able to talk more about that with Tony Basilio. But
Okay,
we also have
let me ask a question here. Why is July 1st such a big day in college football recruiting? Because I'll be honest, maybe I don't know all the dates with all of the various opt in and opt out and transfer portal. Why is today a big day?
I don't. I honestly don't know. I know it's always July. Early July has always been a popular time for players to commit. I know July 1st always has. July 4th, for whatever reason, has. I don't know if that, if revenue sharing, because this is when everything goes into effect now. Apparently, most, if not all, the revenue sharing payments have gone out now. So I don't know if that's why there's been so many. But yeah, early July has always been a popular time to commit. But you've also got former Lipscomb Academy quarterback. We talked about Ty Snell deciding to leave. He is transferring to big time Allen High School in Texas, which basically
So
looks like
so
they've got a nicer stadium than.
it's called Big Time Allen High School.
Yes, that's what it's called, big time Allen High School.
Okay, tell me about it. Without being as big a smart aleck as I was, tell me about it. I don't know
They've
much.
got their stadiums bigger and nicer than MTSU's, and probably a lot of other smaller D1 schools. It's ridiculous. And I may try to show a picture of it a little bit later, but
Okay.
he is headed to Allen High School out in Texas.
So it's one of those Friday night light deals like Permian.
Yes, it's unbelievable, and it's one of it's one of several college looking high school stadiums out in Texas. So Ty Snell has landed in Texas.
There are a bunch of them out there because, Billy, there are a bunch of J.R. Ewing wannabes out there that got more money than they know what the hell to do with, and they all end up flashing that before it's over.
Yeah, in Texas Tech too. I mean, there was a really good piece, and we've had this guy on before, Shayan Jayaraja, I think is how you pronounce his name. He works with CBS Sports. He wrote a piece documenting how all the oil money in Texas has really trickled down to Texas Tech as well, and they've got probably not as much as Texas and Texas A&M, but a lot more than a lot of other schools. So it's even trickled down to them as well. So
the head coach's name. What's the head coach's name? Is it McGuire?
Yeah, Joey McGuire.
Joey McGuire. Everything I know about him, very aggressive. Really markets that program because, not that I've been there, but Lubbock is out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, sure is. Isn't Mike Leach? What show is it in? He's the coach at Texas Tech at the time, and somebody asked him to show him where Lubbock is. I don't know what show that is. I could be playing dumb here, but I feel like I've seen that scene before. Maybe people in the chat can help me out.
I can't help you, but it was also the home for several years of the late great Bobby Knight.
Oh, really? I didn't.
Sure,
I didn't
you don't remember Bobby Knight when he got booted at Indiana, ended up a year later at Texas Tech, doing that whatever that sign is they do that. Whatever that thing is they do.
Yeah. How'd he do at Texas Tech?
I would describe it as mixed. I think he got to an NCAA tournament. His son, if I remember correctly, ended up replacing him at Indiana. I mean, at Texas Tech.
Oh, wow.
Pat Knight.
Okay. I know we've got Tony Basilio coming up here, but I do want to get to this before we get to the break. To have some early Tennessee football betting lines. Tennessee minus 12.5 against Syracuse. I would take Syracuse there. Tennessee plus 7 against Georgia. Interesting line. Tennessee plus 12 at Alabama, and then plus 3 at Florida. So a couple of big lines, underdog lines there for Tennessee against Georgia, Alabama, and Florida.
Hold on. Go back to the Tennessee-Georgia number.
Tennessee plus 7.
That's in Athens. No, that's in Knoxville, isn't it?
That's in Knoxville. Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we shall see. It's a little early for the Lions to be out.
Well, I mean, we're under 60 days away. You got to be talking. That's crazy.
We're a little more, week and a half from SEC football media days?
Yep.
It's now I'm glad you've brought that up because when we get Tony on, I am going to ask him a question about SEC football media days. So he's going to join us later. Tell me about the guest you have set up during the 4 o'clock hour.
Sam Ehrlich is a college sports law writer and professor at Boise State. We've had him on. He's a former lawyer. Like I said, now writes about college sports law and has been in on a lot of these pieces of news, whether it's the Diego Pavia eligibility lawsuit, whether it was Zakai Ziegler. He has chimed in on Twitter and has become really one of the go-to guys when it comes to eligibility and all the changes really in college sports. So He's going to hop on at 4, and I think everybody's going to love it.
Okay, we got plenty coming on the show. Got a good show ready for you today, so stick around. This is 94.9 The Fan.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
At Wilson Bank and Trust, we believe you shouldn't have to choose between personal service and digital solutions. As your local independent bank, we're proud to offer the relationships and trusted service you expect, along with the tools and technology that keep you moving forward. So whether you're growing a business, buying a home, or planning for the future, we're here to help. Because this isn't just where we work, it's where we live too. Wilson Bank and Trust, here to get you there. Member FDIC.
This is my buddy Stan Harrison from Apple Collision Centers. Recently, you've been talking to me about companies that have a fleet of trucks and they're always in need of repairs.
That's right, George. We understand that nobody likes to deal with the auto body repair process. We try to simplify that at our 3 convenient locations. We work with all major insurance companies. We help to ease the stress of the auto body repair process. We're located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. If you need our services, please stop by and see us.
And how convenient that we have that in the background. Now, seriously, these are good folks. They do really good work. Give them a holler.
We work with all major insurance companies. We help to ease the stress of the auto body repair process. We're located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. If you need our services, please stop by and see us.
And how convenient that we have that in the background. Now, seriously, these are good folks. They do really good work. Give them a holler.
You watch the race? We got you.
I can't believe it.
NASCAR lives on the Game Nashville Sports Network. Whether it's 102.5 The Game, 94.9 The Fan, or Sports Talk 830, you can hear it all. Just check theGameNashville.com for the full schedule. NASCAR lives here. Your sports live here on the Game Nashville Sports Network.
It's the George Plaster Show.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Well, I failed to mention earlier that Kelly Holcomb is out today, most likely out through Thursday when we close up shop to celebrate the 4th of July. But he will be here in spirit in just a moment. Trust me when I tell you that, as we go to Knoxville and say hello to the one and
Tony,
only.
hold on. Tony's actually not with us yet.
Really?
I have tried to get a hold of him, and he hadn't gotten back to me. So I don't know if he's napping or what's going on.
Well, I talked to him earlier today. So my guess is he'll join us here in just a second. So here's the deal. Basically, Tony will be here this weekend attending the, and I think is it the Philadelphia Soul is the soccer team? Takes on Nashville SC, who is absolutely red hot. This is, in the soccer world, a huge game the day after the 4th of July. And so, knowing full well that Kelly knows even less than I do, we're going to have a little fun with this. Did I see? There he is. EAGLES to you as well.
Yeah, I got my Kelly Green on today, guys. Got my Kelly Green on, and just in honor of Kelly Holcomb. Kelly Green, Kelly Holcomb.
Okay, now I know you want to pass a message to Kelly. And so the floor is yours to go wherever you want with this.
Well, I just, he's taught me a lot about football and things to look for and not look for. And I would like to invite him to the game Saturday night. I would love to hang out with him and teach him the finer points about the beautiful game. Kelly will walk in there, a neophyte about that sport. He'll walk out of there a fan of what he sees on the field.
Billy, the odds that Kelly would accept such invitation?
0%. He's not doing that.
Why is that? Why is that, Billy?
He would never want to be seen in public with you two. God,
that's really amazing. Now I can understand George.
No offense,
because they have a history. No, I'm not offended. I understand George because they kind of have a history and they got to hang out at work, and that can be a drag, hanging out with your work buddies. But I love Kelly. I just want to say this: if Kelly's watching, or any of his family members or friends are,
he's not.
We tease him and we kind of call him a brain donor, and I even make fun of him on my show because he's just a great foil. However, if I met him and see him at the soccer game Saturday night, I would give him the biggest hug in the whole wide world, man. Like a Tony Vitello sized hug. That's the kind of hug Kelly would get from me.
Oh man. Active brain donor?
Well, I mean that in the dearest way.
Living brain donor.
Just a guy you can hang out with, a living brain donor.
Absolutely. So, okay, you want to get serious for a second?
Sure.
So, when SEC Media Days heat up in about a week and a half, I would assume that unless Josh Heupel says, look, I am done talking about Nico, that he will get an absolute avalanche of questions about Nico. Is he smart enough to start this thing by saying, look, don't ask me about him. I've said all I'm going to say.
I would think that's what they'll do, yeah. I mean, because otherwise, if you don't, you either control that conversation or it's going to control you. Look, it's a very embarrassing thing that happened here. And it's really something that shouldn't have happened. Looking back on it, George, forensically, and you consider what occurred, the takeaway here for Josh Heupel and for anybody involved at Tennessee or any of these programs is when you find out that your quarterback that you're paying top dollar to is out there kicking the tires and trying to, it's one thing if somebody contacts your quarterback. Okay, that happens all the time, I'm sure. It's another thing when you know that they're the ones doing it. You cannot, and I repeat, you cannot bring that player back, that quarterback. Quarterbacks just have to be different. If a wide receiver wants to do that, fine. Defensive back wants to do that, linebacker, what have you. Okay, whatever. Quarterbacks, that is a no-no. That is a no-no. And the thing that was really kind of betraying about all this is that Josh Heupel had a really good relationship, or felt like he did, with Nico. And they thought the kid was going to take a step this year. Now, that's debatable as to whether or not he was. If he were a stock, I would either sell him or hold him going into this year as a Tennessee quarterback. But they have a very navigable schedule, George. The Vols do. They play 4 of the worst teams in the league. They open with Syracuse. Their 4 challenging games are Oklahoma here. And then you've got Oklahoma here, like I said, Georgia here, and then road games with Florida and road games with Alabama. Now, granted, Tennessee doesn't win at Florida. It just doesn't happen. So, but at any rate, I mean, this is a pretty navigable schedule, especially if you had a third-year quarterback. But, you know, the odd thing, George, the thing I wonder is, what will it look like at the Big Ten meetings where it's been announced that Nico's going to be there for UCLA, which I think is a very curious, weird, strange thing. What is Nico going to say about his teammates he hadn't practiced with all spring, George? You're a media person. Walk me through that. What is this kid going to say? It's going to be all about him defecting. And how does he get out of that without looking like the heel that family is right now? Because they're seen as a real heel act in college football for the stunt they've pulled.
So the only way, and you tell me if you disagree with this, the only way that can be halfway okay is for him to read some sort of a statement at the beginning about it that basically says, you know, I'm a young guy. If I had it to do over, yes, I probably would have handled this better. I want to thank the University of Tennessee. I want to apologize for any, problems I may have caused them. But this is all I'm going to say about this. And there has to be an SID type at UCLA that steps in and says he does this statement and nothing else about it. Otherwise, you're absolutely right. That'll turn into one flew over the cuckoo's nest.
Well, and UCLA is the same place where I don't know how much help they're giving their people, but that's the same place where Deshaun Foster stood up there last year because Nico's about to tell him to hold his beer. That's the last year he said, my name's Deshaun Foster. I come from UCLA and we're from Los Angeles. Any questions? And you know what the truth is? Nico knows about that much about his team right now. The guy didn't go through practice. He's throwing to air right now. He doesn't know who on his offensive line can play, who can't play. You can look at film and maybe get a feel for that, but he really doesn't. He didn't exactly process here after a year and a half in this program. I mean, and I'm not knocking the kid, but I call the guy that Tennessee got from them, and this I think is a fair thing to say, I call him Joey Football, and I call Nico Nerf Ball. And listen, I don't run from that. I don't run from that. Nico is a guy that is a figment of somebody's imagination. And truthfully, George, if they bring him to media day, think about this. Okay, so he reads that statement. I want to thank Josh Heupel. I really wish it could have worked with me in Tennessee, and I'm just not going to talk about it today. What am I going to ask you, kid? What are you doing here? You don't know anything about your teammates. What am I going to ask you?
Well, okay, let me ask this question. Why is UCLA stupid enough to even put him out there to begin with?
And that is the $5 million question, right? See, Josh Heupel has to walk into this maelstrom. He's got to walk into this deal because, I mean, and Heupel hates this kind of thing. But, you know, he makes $10 million and he can go out there and, you know, get roughed up for a few minutes if that's what happens. Why would you, if you're UCLA, why would you expose this kid to that? And what is Tennessee going to do? Are they going to take Joey Aguilar? I mean, or are we just going to again, hold my beer? I'll show you something dumber. Let's bring this guy down here who was in the middle of it. You know, Joey Aguilar, George, if he went, and he's going to be a real sympathetic figure this year. I don't know if you've thought about this, but Joey Aguilar is a guy that played at App State, was pretty moderately successful there. Not great, but not bad. Pretty good. He threw some pretty good numbers. Gets to go back home. It's his dream. And they pay him around $1 million to do so. And he just goes through camp, minds his own business. And I was talking to a couple people that cover the beat there, and they said, Joey Aguilar was fine there. Nico comes available. George, they throw him overboard like one girl I tried to go out with in high school. I mean, it was like, what, you got a sore throat again? You got a cough again? It's May. It's not even flu and cold season anymore. I mean, they threw him overboard like he wasn't even there. All of college football is cheering for him, George, this year. It'd be a neat story if he can play a little bit here.
Okay, which brings me to a little bit of Kelly's stuff, which is that as a former quarterback, he thinks this is going to be very dicey early, that Aguilar only has a certain amount of time to process this thing. And I would assume Tennessee knows that and probably has taken some stuff out of the playbook. But how much do you think they worry about that?
This kid's strength, George, is he likes to try and make plays, and it's also his weakness. He throws the ball very well long, which Nico was not accurate last year long. There were plays out there to be had, even though Tennessee was pretty bereft at wide receiver of what I would call top-end playmakers compared to some of their peers in the league that, spend around a similar budget. But the thing that Heupel's offense does is it protects quarterbacks. And you're not going to throw the ball in traffic in this offense. It's not there. He doesn't ask you to do that. You're going to throw the ball up top. You're going to get the ball out wide on the hash marks. And I'm going to ask you to make some plays with your feet. An Aguilar guy, he ain't afraid to run. Now, he's not the greatest athlete in the world, but he's not afraid to run. He's certainly more of a willing runner than Nico was. And, the narrative here with Nico, which is another interesting thing, is that, there's some reporting out there that the father was shopping him around back in the fall. Now listen, people wondered why the guy in the Ohio State game all of a sudden looked like a willing runner. And then a couple days later, they think they're going to Miami. They think they've got Miami talked into it. And by the way, Miami, you brought up last week, they are the school that's being accused by Wisconsin of tampering. So that would be on brand that they would think that. They might have been going into that playoff game thinking, you know what? We got to show these people that we can run a little bit. Because he was a more willing runner in that playoff game. Almost like you see these guys where it's like Kyle Schwarber right now is it a playoff year for a contract year for my Phillies.
Right.
So he comes into camp. He's lost more weight than a new divorcee. No offense to new divorcees, but he's got the slim down body. He's ready to roll. And I mean, this cat is playing ball. He's beating out infield singles. What happens, George, when he signs his big contract in the offseason to Kyle Schwarber? Where's his weight go?
To John Kruk. He goes to John Kruk land.
Thank you.
By the way, I was in Atlanta Sunday to see that putrid offensive attack that we laid on y'all. So,
Unreal.
Okay, later today during the 4:00 hour, Sam Ehrlich, who is a college sports lawyer from Boise State University, is going to be on with us to talk about the Miami-Wisconsin lawsuit. Off of what you have heard so far, does that thing have some legs?
I have no idea. I don't know. But I'll tell you, one thing I'd like you to ask him for me, because I'm curious about this. So last week, the Trump administration won a Supreme Court case. And essentially, it's about federal law superseding state law. There's a guy in the internet space, this Tom Marr, Mars, I believe is his name. He's in the similar space the guys in that you're getting ready to talk to. Very specialized NCAA type law, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
He said it's really bad news for Tennessee's state law, which they were counting on shielding them. Now that we're in this era where you have to go and take every deal to the clearinghouse for NIL. Okay. So is that the case? Is it the case now that the federal law thus knocks the moorings out of the state law? Because Vanderbilt as well could opt in or opt out of that state law since they were since they're a private institution. And I that's a very curious thing to me, George, because it seems like, that happened late last week. Like a lot of things happen, like I guess that was Friday. It might have happened, or maybe Thursday night, but whenever it was later in the week. And I haven't been able to determine what the ramifications are of that, but that's pretty significant if that's in fact the case. If they've kicked the legs right out from under that Tennessee law that Tennessee lobbied to get put in place because they still want to spend with the Ohio States of the world and with other folks, but they want to be able to do it protected by the law instead of doing it by passing out a couple $1 million here and a couple $1 million there, sort of not off the books, but away from the eyes of the NCAA.
You're on a roll. Billy, your witness.
Tony, I want to start with baseball. Last week we were talking on the phone, and I asked you about Landon Mack and kind of, hey, what's Tennessee's chances here? You mentioned LSU. You said, I don't know about this. Well, they land him, and that's a big get. I did not expect that. Tony, what do you know about how that went down? And I know I saw a picture on Twitter of Tony inside their house, and obviously talking with him. What do you know about that?
9 or 10 days ago, Tennessee thought he was going to LSU. Tony said, we're not doing this again. I'm not going to lose this kid. The backstory is I had Tony on the show, and Landon Mack was sitting about 10 feet from him. And he looked at him when he was on the air with me, because he told me before we got on the air, he said, I've got family here. I got 3 visitors. I said, well, why are you doing the show? And he goes, I can't say no. And I said, well, that's a really good trait. I'm glad you can't say no. And I think Tony's a guy that doesn't just do things. I think he thought, you know what? We'll do this segment with me on here, because what he said is, he didn't say the kid's name. I don't think you're allowed to do that. Mm-hmm. He said, I've got somebody sitting in my office right now. He said, I'll tell you this. If we get this guy, the only team that's going to be able to beat us is going to be us next year if we get this guy. Mm-hmm. And he did that with the kid sitting next to him. And then they thought they were in pretty good shape with him. And then Jay Johnson, hey, LSU in that sport, they swing a big stick. They have a huge NIL budget, as you know. And Tennessee went head-to-head for them on the kid from NC State who looked like he was a reject from Leonard Skinner, that third baseman. What was his name, Billy? The kid that wore all the chains.
Tommy White.
Tommy White. Tommy Trucks. He looked like he belonged up there with Skinner. And no offense. And Paul Skeens was a guy that Tennessee and them went head-to-head on. Tennessee and then went head-to-head on a pitcher who left Alabama. Tennessee thought they had him, and he ended up down there at LSU, and that was the year Tennessee won the national championship. Point is, in Tony's era, going head-to-head on these high-ticket items out of the portal has not been good, and they were getting ready to go 0 for 4 on those high-ticket items, and I think Tony just said, you know what? I've had enough. And he rolled his sleeves up, and he went up there and he visited with them in person, and he turned it. And you know what? I know you kind of think that Vitello's borderline spawn of Satan, but I'll tell you this: you got to give a lot of credit to a guy that does that, Billy. A guy works like that. You got to give him credit.
Billy, do you think he is Satan?
Spawn of. That day I heard Billy on that podcast who were you on there with, Billy? Who was your co-host?
It was Will Byram, Trevor Hewlin. That was the Door Report. That was
oh my gosh, man. I said, what did Tony do to these guys? Beat them out of some money in a card game? What happened here? Billy was having that was the year that Tennessee I guess, swept Vanderbilt out of nowhere. It was not supposed to happen. They were literally, George, throwing dirt on Tony's grave. They were talking about how it's over. The run's over. We beat this guy back. We're going to put an end to it. Your two co-hosts on there they were really going for it. And, you know, Billy, I like you. You really dug in yourself. You got a few digs in, man.
That was fun. That was fun. Good time.
Those were fun days. Yes, sir.
Are you done?
I'm done.
Hey,
I mean, I can ask more if you want.
Wow.
Hey guys, is the Pavia thing, do you guys hear anything about, because the NCAA is still trying to shut him down. Now, do we know anything about that?
I haven't heard. I haven't heard. I mean, of course, it's from a lot of Vanderbilt people saying that they have nothing to worry about. But
I hope they let him play. Yeah, I hope they leave him alone.
Something to ask this guy coming up though, that because he's followed a lot of these cases, and you wonder if there is something to what you've been talking about and other people have brought up.
Because Ziegler and Gainey, I know here we're hoping to get a 5th year, but those guys signed with a summer league team and they were involved in that, that deal they were involved in. So, which tells you that they feel like the legs of the state law were undercut with what happened late last week here. So it's kind of interesting. And I think that could impact Pavia as well. If in fact Vanderbilt would try to tie it to that. I don't know how you would. I guess you'd have to opt into that whole thing that they were talking about before.
So Tony, let me ask you this before we go. So the SEC put out, or at least I think it was the SEC that put out to the member institutions. They can't ever say to our schools. Yeah. Member institutions. Some sort of here's how we believe you need to spend your $20.5 million. And essentially it's about $2 million for scholarships and then about $18.5 in actual NIL money. Mm-hmm. And the SEC thing basically gave football 75%, if I remember correctly, 75% of the money. I think they gave 15% to basketball. And then when it came to men's baseball, it was just go out and find some crumbs. Mm-hmm. Are the baseball coaches honestly going to put up with that, given that they have become a commodity that 10 years ago they were not?
Here's the breakdown at Tennessee. I'll just give it to you. Tennessee is allocating $12.5 million for football. That's 70% of their budget. Roughly $3.5 million for basketball. That's 20% of the budget. $1 million for women's basketball, 5% of the budget. $650,000 for baseball. That's 3.5% of the budget. And then $350,000 for softball, 1.5% of the budget. So that's how they're breaking it out here.
Okay.
So to answer your question, but here's the thing none of us know, okay? Because I'm going to keep it real with you. Do you really think, George, that a Tim Corbin, a Tony Vitello, a Jay Johnson, they've spent their budget allocation, but somebody they've been chasing in that transfer portal, okay, calls them and says, hey, coach, I want in. But you got to give me a fair market value. You really think, George, they're going to let one of those kids walk, or are they going to find a way, like we've always done at these programs, to make it work? I've had assistant coaches tell me that down through the years. All you've done now with this new system, George, is encourage. You're encouraging these highly competitive people to walk outside the lines again. And they're all going to do it, by the way. They're all going to do it. Those baseball coaches are not going to stand there and let this happen.
No, and I 100% agree with you. But I guess the thing I can't figure out is everybody said going in that she's really a smart judge. Well, it doesn't take a lot of smarts to see this. I mean, did she not, talk to some people in the sports world as she was helping craft this, who would have said to her, listen, ma'am, if you think this is how it's really going to happen, you're crazy.
Well, the courts, and again, the courts are going to speak on this. You and I both know this. This is the law we have to live under right now. I think what's really interesting is seeing how some of these other schools are spending their money. Some have released it, some haven't. Like Kentucky's spending a ton on basketball, like a ton, compared to some of the other schools. You know, George, $3.5 million right now for a men's basketball team.
It's chump change.
It's one player.
Yeah.
It's one player. Now, here's the thing. What they want you and I to believe is that these agents that are currently dealing with these people know that next year they're going to take a haircut and the prices are just, going to go down. Hey, George, when's the last time in sports you saw that? They tried to do that in 1987, and Lance Parrish jumped in there and they sued Major League Baseball for collusion. That winter when they decided, because that's what that is. When you decide in a free market, when you decide this is the cap you're under, and then you seek to enforce that against the labor force. Now, look, these kids haven't collected bargains, so I don't know if it's collusion or it's just an outright, you are now in the way of a free market economy. And that's where we're going. I mean, we're going back to court on this thing. I don't think this thing lasts for a year, but it's interesting that a place like Tennessee, who spends $100 million on a basketball renovation, or baseball renovation rather, $100 million is going to give a baseball team $650,000 and their women's program $1 million. Like, in what world, as you were just saying, in what world does that make sense to you?
None.
Okay.
And you and I both know, you said the thing a minute ago, this is going to end up back in court.
Yeah, it's far from over.
So, okay, maybe not during the 4th of July because there's not a lot of sports going on in college. But there is somebody out there in Middle Tennessee who has never heard you, who's saying, man, this soccer guy is pretty interesting. How do they hear you?
tclub.team is where you find us every day. We've got a terrific blog up there today. My odds maker in Vegas, Robert Killer Kowalski, with VIP Play, has put together, George, what the odds would be on a fictitious SEC Big Ten matchup, brawl for it all, matching the 1 versus 1 all the way down to team 16 versus 16. And the SEC is favored in most of those games. You'll be glad to know the middle of the conference is where the biggest discrepancy lies in terms of point spreads. But tclub.team, you can check out my YouTube channel, Tony Basilio Show. You can really, really get a glimpse for exactly what nature's dealing me as I age. And it is not a pretty picture. It is not a pretty picture.
Will you be signing autographs Saturday at the soccer game?
George, I was going to ask you if you will serve as like protection for me. I think there's a better chance that I will need protection than be doling out autographs. But either way, I'm really looking forward to some fellowship with you. And the last time we hung out and watched that hockey game was that was such a fun night. You to treat my family that well. You're my man, George. You know that.
Hey, I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be the cap to a great July 4th holiday. Tony, see you next week.
Thank you. If we can't get Kelly there, let's get Billy. Thank you.
Oh, good Lord.
See you, Tom.
See you guys.
Okay, we're done. A lot to sort out after the break. This is 94.9 The Fan.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun. If you are paying too much for your health insurance, you know what? You need to contact the folks at Pancoast Benefits. Pancoast works with businesses and individuals to tackle the high cost of health insurance. Whether you're a business owner, large or small, self-employed, between jobs, or over the age of 65 and in need of a Medicare plan, Pancoast can help. They make understanding your benefits less difficult and more personal. So check them out today, pancoastbenefits.com, or call them at 615-292-3400.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2025 season. Create a summer of memories at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, and more. Tickets are on sale now.
At Wilson Bank and Trust, we believe you shouldn't have to choose between personal service and digital solutions. As your local independent bank, we're proud to offer the relationships and trusted service you expect, along with the tools and technology that keep you moving forward. So whether you're growing a business, buying a home, or planning for the future, we're here to help. Because this isn't just where we work, it's where we live too. Wilson Bank and Trust, here to get you there. Member FDIC.
Unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
A lot of people want to define teams by singular performances.
Sports. Did he not go back into the game after that interception?
Let's get this turned around. And we're all saying, no, they don't.
Here.
You thought you were on your way.
Your sports live here.
On ESPN 94.9.
And the Game Nashville Sports Network.
It's the George Plaster Show.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Boy, there are a lot of takeaways from the discussion we just had with Tony Basilio. The first one, and I have thought this for a while now, that here is baseball that has elevated itself on the college level past what any of us ever saw coming. LSU's proud to be a national champion. Vanderbilt in the past, very proud to be a national champion. Tennessee, very proud to be a national champion. And I'm supposed to believe that all of these coaches, when the athletic director tells them, look, you're just chump change, you're a pimple on our budget, that some coach isn't going to tell an athletic director, screw you?
Oh, I mean, there's no doubt, especially, your Tony Vitello's, your Tim Corbin's even. I mean, he's proven, especially this past offseason, they didn't pick up as many transfers, 2 off seasons ago, but this past offseason, you've seen it in action that they have picked it up a little bit. You know what Jay Johnson at LSU does in the portal every single year. Texas has picked up a bunch. Georgia has, I think, 12 transfers. I mean, you say the percentages and you hear those numbers from Tony, and I forget exactly what he said there, but something like 3.5% of the revenue share went to baseball. That is
the number he threw out, was it not 650,000?
Yeah, but the percentage of the revenue share money, which is $20.5 million, Tennessee baseball is getting about 3.5% of that, is what I think Tony said. That is just the revenue share money. that doesn't include outside NIL deals. So you've got that in this as well, baked in, that you got to remember. But the revenue, like for football, that's a big difference between what football is getting, which is anywhere from 50 to 70% for probably most schools that even have a football program, and maybe even higher for some. And Kentucky basketball is probably an example of basketball getting 50 to 60%, right? And maybe even an even split almost with football. But yeah, it's not going to be, it's not going to be as dramatic of a disappointment, I think, for these baseball coaches, because they know, like Tony said, they'll be able to get a player if they want a player.
But what was the point of spending all those months in telling the schools, okay, you're capped at 20.5, 18.5 of which is NIL, and another 2 million or so is scholarship? What was the point of this exercise if they didn't put a cap on the outside collectives and say you can only take up to a certain amount? What was the point of this exercise?
I'm with you. I think it was to have some sort of cap. But look, in terms of collectives and agents and players, that's going to be hard to put a cap on, with those collectives. And maybe you could put a cap on here's the max number you can have for one deal with one player. I mean, is that a good start? I think, because it's probably going to be easier to do it that way as opposed to just placing caps on Ohio State football. Here's your cap. Tennessee.
But remember the answer that Tony Barnhart gave us, that the courts would strike all that kind of stuff down as a restraint of trade.
Which means
that if you're trying to cap, for instance, if you're trying to say, look, the quarterback market is totally out of control, so we're going to cap, you can't pay a quarterback more than $2 million, which makes a lot of sense, by the way. Tony Barnhart, his answers was that the courts would come in and say, that's a restraint of trade. And I have believed all along the court system, when it comes to what they have ruled in college athletics, they don't have a clue what the hell's going on. They have no idea the level of turmoil they have helped create in this. I realize that I'm leaving us on some really good stuff. Sam Ehrlich is going to join us after the break, after we bomb at Stat of the Day. Then we'll get back to all of this with a lot of your phone caller reaction. We got some good stuff today. This is 94.9 The Fan.
Want to go big this 4th of July? Go mad! Mad Fireworks. We don't do small. We do sky-filling, neighbor-waking, red, white, and boom fireworks that light up your whole summer. There's 64 locations in Tennessee. Go to madfireworks.com to find the one near you. We got the wildest selection in the state, from family packs to full-blown finale shows, all at prices that'll blow your mind. Not your budget. Mad Fireworks. Get loud. Get lit. Go mad. Check out madfireworks.com for the location nearest you.
Experience the spirit of the American West at the Buffalo Bills Center of the West in Cody, Wyoming. 5 museums under one roof, each exhibit a step into another era. Located 50 miles from Yellowstone, begin your adventure at centerofthewest.org.
Your Nashville Sounds are back at First Horizon Park tonight to take on Memphis. Pre-game at 6:20.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan and the Game Nashville app. Listen on the air.
So don't tell me to chill out.
On the web at thegamenashville.com.
This team has strategically put themselves back in the mix.
Watch us on YouTube or download the Game Nashville app.
You have to make those plays.
Your sports live here on the Game Nashville Sports Network.
Your sports live here. WBUZ HD3 Laverne. All around the world on the Game Nashville app. We are the Game Nashville Sports Network. ESPN 94.9 The Fan.
So the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee. It's the George Plaster Show, featuring Tennessee Sports Hall of Famers Kelly Holcomb and young gun Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Coming up, Sam Ehrlich, college sports law expert from Boise State. He's really one of the go-to guys whenever you're talking about the mess that is college sports. So we're going to get into that with Sam Ehrlich, a bunch of different topics. Shame on me for not mentioning this earlier in the update, George. I want to touch on it here now. Luke Cornett, of course, former Vanderbilt star, also has been with the Celtics, of course, has signed a contract with the Spurs. So he'll be joining Victor Wembanyama on a 4-year, $40 million contract. So congrats to Luke Cornett and his family, of course.
Yeah, I bet Frank's beaming from ear to ear. That's great. Good for him.
All right, let's get to stat of the day. It's a baseball question. We're brought to you by Apple Collision Centers with stat of the day. You can find them in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. Give them a call, 615-754-9800, or log on to their website. It's applecollisioncenters.com. All right, here we go. There are 4 MLB teams with 50-plus wins currently. How many of them can you name?
Well, I can certainly name one that isn't. How about that? So Detroit is one of them. Yes?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to say the Dodgers are one of them.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to say the Yankees are one of them, but no, hold on. Hold on. I'm not going there yet.
Actually, who was the first team you said?
Detroit.
Yes. So you got 2 out of the 4 so far.
I'm going to go with the Phillies as the third.
Yep.
And the fourth, I don't think is the Cubs. I don't think it's the Mets, although I could be wrong. I'm going to go with the Astros.
You are perfect.
Oh, wow.
4 for 4. Dodgers, Tigers, Phillies, and Stros.
And in the Astros case, they have really had to come on in the last month to be in that category. Major League Baseball is basically, most of the teams are right at the halfway mark. And some are doing well, and some can't hit for squat.
Wonder who that is.
Wonder if Sam can solve that problem for us. Sam Ehrlich, nice enough to join us as we get the 4 o'clock hour underway. Sam, you got any idea what team I'm talking about?
Well, I think I know which team you're talking about, but I do have to give a shout out to my San Diego Padres, who also can't hit for squat, which is great start to the season, but they've really kind of struggled over the past few weeks. So I think you're probably talking about the Braves, though, because the Braves have had a very, very interesting season.
Ooh, weird season. By the way, at the end of the season, feel free to ship Georgia native by way of free agency, Dylan Cease, to my team.
It may happen before the season. I don't know if the Padres continue playing the way they've been playing. There's definitely talk around the San Diego area about a potential trade there, and I think my team's right on the line of being buyers and sellers, which is not a fun position to be in, but we've been spoiled. So what are you gonna do?
3-game winning streak or 3-game losing streak can change a lot of stuff this time of year.
That is true.
Sam, I've got a feeling that because the news got out on a Friday, that the whole lawsuit involving Miami and Wisconsin, with Wisconsin accusing Miami of tortious interference, that it got lost in the shuffle. As somebody who really studies this stuff, does this lawsuit have legs?
Yeah, and I think the Friday news cycle kind of thing was a really interesting part of it. It's funny how much of college sports news lately has been breaking on Fridays. The House settlement broke on the approval of the House settlement broke on a late Friday evening as well. So what are you going to do? But with this case, with this Wisconsin v. Miami case, I think it's a really interesting case because I think one key issue in it, and one thing it really is going to set up is, are the NCAA rules something that a court is going to look at and say this is something that if they're not following NCAA rules, even if the NCAA isn't enforcing these rules, is that something that can be the basis for a tort like intentional interference? Is it something where the courts are going to step in where the NCAA is not going to step in? And I think that's kind of the key issue in this case. And personally, I'm not too confident that the courts are going to do that. I think the courts are going to look and say, well, wait a minute. I mean, you keep talking about in your complaint how this is a violation of NCAA rules, how the NCAA prohibits this kind of contact, and it's bad for the game. Why don't you go to the NCAA on this? Why isn't something where the NCAA stepping in? And I think we know why the NCAA is stepping in, because they'd get sued if they try to step in something like this, as they've been sued on many other things over the past few years. But it is something where I think, given the respect that courts tend to have for this idea of competition, this idea of businesses, including schools, especially in this NIL era, especially post July 1st, when we're seeing schools paying athletes directly, I think courts are really going to struggle with the idea of stepping in and saying, we're going to stop this from happening when the NCAA won't stop it themselves.
Okay, what we all know, and it's sort of the nod, wink, wink, is that every school in America has interfered with somebody else's something. And it gets as simple as a kid has a breakout game against an opponent in his conference, and by the end of the game, a coach has told 3 players, go up to him and let him know we're interested.
Yeah, and I think that's a key part of this case, because I don't think, if Wisconsin ends up winning this case, this is not going to be the only case that we're going to see. In fact, I think a lot of schools are waiting for the outcome of this case, are very interested in the outcome of this case, because if Wisconsin does manage to win this case, and I mean, maybe some of it will be based specifically on Wisconsin law instead of the law of other states, but tortious interference tend to be at least fairly similar across the states, and at least in relevant part. But if Wisconsin does end up winning this case, if they do prevail in this case, if they're able to get Miami to pay up for their tortious interference, for their tampering with Xavier Lucas's contract, I would fully expect dozens and dozens of copycat lawsuits to come out of this. And, which I think is kind of funny and kind of interesting, because the Big Ten came out such a strong support of, Wisconsin's lawsuit here. It would not shock me. In fact, I know for a fact that the Big Ten might be a target of some of those lawsuits.
So isn't the ultimate answer here, and I realize this may not have anything to do with law, but isn't the ultimate answer here that we're going to have to create some sort of a system where if Miami, if you want to call it, steals Wisconsin's player, that Wisconsin gets something back in return, almost like trading in professional sports. If you want our cornerback, that the rules are set up where it will cost you'll be forced to pay us, I don't know, $1 million. Isn't that ultimately the solution to this?
I think it is. And I think that's something where, if you look at every professional sports league, if you look at every sports league that has a structure like this, that it needs to have a structure like this, because you can't just have a system where, where teams can kind of just go and raid each other's teams and get players from their other teams. I mean, just doesn't work for competitive balance. It doesn't work for team stability. It doesn't work in a lot of different ways. And the issue here, of course, is that the NCAA has very limited power to actually be able to stop this, or at least we can kind of assume that they do. It's not something that's really been litigated specifically, but we did have the state of Ohio case that did find that the year in residence rule which was designed to tamper down on some of this tampering, which was designed to, at least, force athletes to wait a year in between transferring for a second time. The West Virginia District Court said that's a violation of antitrust law. It's difficult to imagine that we wouldn't see the exact same ruling if the NCAA did start to enforce any of its tampering provisions. The reason why other sports leagues like the NFL and the NBA and every sports league, the NWSL, the WNBA, the reason why all those sports leagues can get away with it is because they're collectively bargained. It's because they have that exemption from antitrust law. They have the ability to set the broader guidelines for the sport, the broader guidelines for the rules of kind of the front office part of the game, and they're able to control player movement in that regard. And collective bargaining does not seem like a thing that the NCAA is interested in. There's a lot of legal and practical barriers to getting there, so it's not even something that, I think the NCAA, even if they wanted to, can just wave their wand and make happen. But until we get to that point, unless we have some sort of rather broad antitrust immunity from Congress, which doesn't seem like Congress is that interested in right now, we're really not going to see a stop to this.
Okay, let me apologize on the front end because I'm asking a hodgepodge of probably stupid stuff, but help me with this. So Claudia Wilkin gets picked out to be the judge that ultimately will, be the one to bring it all together into this $20.5 million package. Now, I don't know her background to know if she's very sports oriented or not, but if she's not, she has the ability to talk to people in the sports world to say, okay, give me a little guidance. I'm the one that ultimately is steering all this. And that before all this came down, we kept hearing this will be a landmark decision. And the more we find out about this is a joke. There is nothing to this that's anywhere close to landmark. How did she not get closer to that?
Well, I think the issue is that Judge Wilkin only has the power to approve or deny what the parties put in front of them. And, the House settlement does a lot of things. It really changes a lot. It allows for revenue sharing. It allows the NCAA to impose new roster limits instead of scholarship limits. It allows them to a certain extent, we'll see how enforceable it is moving forward, to do some things to kind of tamp down on third-party NIL deals, on collective deals and booster deals. But that is the extent of the House settlement. That is what the House settlement's targeted to do. Class action settlements are not a collective bargaining agreement. It's not a vehicle to be able to create this broader change, this broader, shift in the landscape, this broader stability in any sort of industry. And in that way and many other ways, and that even goes to the enforceability of a lot of the parts of the settlement moving forward, and kind of especially with regards to the implementation of the settlement. That's a big difference between it and collective bargaining. It's limited to only what the plaintiffs in that case actually brought forward in their complaint. And, clearly if the NCAA had wanted, they already went a little bit further than their initial complaint, including roster limits. But if the NCAA had been able to convince the plaintiffs to allow for some kind of transfer regulation, maybe that would be thrown into the House settlement as well. But clearly they weren't able to do that. And clearly, it may have been something where they just weren't able to bring it in. It would just be too far removed from it. But class action settlements are limited in that regard. And Judge Wilkin, as powerful as she is, as much power she's had in the college sports landscape, she only has the power to approve or deny what's put in front of her.
So did you say, and I'll turn it to Billy here in just a second, did you say that the House settlement allows for kind of a ramping down of the collectives?
It tries to. It certainly has those provisions. It establishes kind of this new system, this NIL Go system that's going to be run by this new College Sports Commission, run through Deloitte, kind of through that partnership, where athletes are going to have to submit deals over $600 and deals that are not considered to be for fair market value and for a valid business purpose. So if it goes well beyond what you kind of expect to pay for that particular performance for, the social media posts or whatever, or if it's just not for a valid business purpose, if it's clearly something that's just pay for play, the College Sports Commission does have the power through the House settlement to say, we're not going to approve this deal, and if you do take this deal, we're going to take away your eligibility and punish your school. It remains to be seen whether that power is actually going to be sustainable, whether it's something where, I think the elephant in the room is that boosters and collectives, they're third parties. They're not bound to the settlement. We'll see what they decide to do. We'll see if they decide to file a lawsuit over this, and alleging that their rights have been violated. And we'll have to see how a court decides that. But the House settlement does give the College Sports Commission kind of this new arm, this new enforcement arm, the ability to reject NIL deals that it considers to be circumventing the new revenue sharing cap.
Sam, appreciate you for hopping on again. I want to go back to the Diego Pavia case, and we had you on right around that time, and you were pretty confident that there was a case to be made, and obviously you were a big part of breaking that story. We've heard, and no surprise from the Tennessee side of things, no shock it's come from the Tennessee, the big rival there, that the NCAA isn't done with Pavia yet. Is there anything that Vanderbilt fans should worry about that maybe they won the battle, but the war isn't over yet?
See, I'm not so sure about that, because the NCAA did issue a Pavia waiver. They issued a new blanket waiver that does exempt Diego Pavia and athletes who are kind of in similar situations, meaning that they have played 4 years of eligibility, but they haven't completed their 5-year clock. They still have room within that 5-year clock. And at least one of those 4 years was at a junior college. So like Diego Pavia, for example, he played at New Mexico Military Institute. One of those years was a COVID year. The second one is just not going to be counted under this blanket waiver. And I don't see them necessarily rescinding that blanket waiver. I think it would affect just far too many athletes, and it's something where I think they consider that to be done. They are appealing the Pavia case. It is something that the Sixth Circuit's taking a look at. But I think what's really interesting, and I think that maybe the Tennessee part of it, is that there's another name. In fact, there's over 20 names at this point that have filed similar lawsuits to Diego Pavia at this point. There's a lot of these lawsuits going around, but another name that's been caught up in this is a Tennessee name. A couple of names that have been Tennessee names. We're also talking about Alberto Ozuna as well. But Zakai Ziegler, the star basketball player, who also filed a lawsuit, had that lawsuit rejected. He had his preliminary injunction rejected. He also appealed it, and that appeal is going to be heard at the same time as the Pavia case. So I'm going to be very interested to see how the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals rules on that joint case. Now that there's a joint case, and if they do, if they do reverse the Pavia thing and ruling and say that the preliminary injunction that was granted Diego Pavia should not have been granted, maybe there's a possibility that the NCAA reverses course and takes away the Pavia waiver. But I think at this point, with so many athletes preparing for 2024 or 2025-26, knowing that they have kind of this relief under the waiver, I think it would be too chaotic for them to do that. So I would very much doubt it. For athletes like Jetty Ladd at Rutgers and Nizer Forquetten at Wisconsin, who were able to get preliminary injunctions, but the NCAA did not issue blanket waivers like they did with Diego Pavia, that one's a little more tentative if it gets overturned on appeal. But I think Pavia is safe.
You and George were just talking about, some of the efforts from the NCAA to sort of tamp down on some of these deals. We know about revenue sharing, but in terms of the settlement and how that affects, we know how it affects revenue sharing, and we know about all the splits from some of the schools. Tony Basilio just talked about how Tennessee is splitting theirs up. In terms of collectives and how much they can pay players, we know of schools that are sort of merging everything together, and it'll be under one entity, with the school. How much did the settlement help, if at all, to how much money these collectives are giving these kids? Do you think that there was any help in that? And we've talked about a cap, a salary cap of some sort potentially being created. Did we get any closer to that?
I think we got a lot closer to it, because at least we have a legal structure that it's going to be tested. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that at some point it's going to be tested. But This $20.5 million is a cap. It is the revenue sharing cap. It is something that the schools, at least themselves, are going to be forced to stick to. And as far as the collectives and boosters are concerned, if they do offer deals that are beyond that are not for a fair market value, or as they're saying now, within a range of reasonable compensation, or for a valid business purpose, if they are considered for pay for play, like we've seen with so many of these deals over the past 4 years. It's something that the CSC is going to strike down. It's something that the CSC is going to go after. And at least facially, until we get into the litigation that may result from that, the CSC is going to put their foot down and they're going to say we're not going to allow this deal. And yes, the athlete might be able to seek arbitration to challenge that, but I think a lot of these deals that we've seen are just facially pay for play. I mean, I think they're very obviously pay for play. So I think from an arbitration standpoint, the player won't be able to challenge it. The question is going to be whether the booster and the collective can challenge it through antitrust law, through alleging that their right to enter this market has been infringed upon. And of course, whether a court's going to go along with that or say that under antitrust law, you have to balance the anti-competitive effects against the pro-competitive benefits, whether the court's going to say, you know what, the pro-competitive benefits of having the stability in college sports outweighs the booster and collective's rights to kind of pay these increased compensation rates. We're going to allow this to stand, but at this point, we just don't know.
Last thing for me, when the Miami versus Wisconsin case broke, George and I talked, and I had said that this feels like the beginning of more dominoes to fall, and more, a new snowball is to begin rolling down the hill, and you would guess there's more tampering suits to come from this. Would you agree with that, or is this a situation where potentially this one could be sorted out and we may not see more? I mean, I err on the side of that we're probably going to see more situations like the Wisconsin-Miami case.
1,000%. I do not think, if Wisconsin wins, I do not think this is the end of it. If Miami wins, then maybe the school will say, okay, well, we're just not going to win this case. Precedent has been set, even if it's in one individual state, that we're just not going to be able to win this case. So we're just not going to try moving forward. But if Wisconsin wins, or if Wisconsin, if it's kind of more of a narrow ruling, or maybe if Wisconsin just managed to get a settlement out of Miami, I think we see dozens of similar cases being filed, because this is certainly not limited to Xavier Lucas's case. I mean, maybe at least at the start of things, maybe you can consider his case to be a little bit more isolated because he had a 2-year deal and left in the middle of that 2-year deal, which is really what Wisconsin's going after. And maybe for some of these deals instead, they're saying, okay, well, it was only a 1-year deal, so it wasn't really a breach of contract. You didn't really induce a breach of contract. There's no legal liability there. But I think especially as we're starting to see, especially now that we have July 1st, especially now that the House settlement is in force and revenue sharing is the thing, we're going to see more multi-year deals, because schools are going to want to stop this. And if Wisconsin's able to win and show that an athlete leaving in the middle of a multi-year deal and being tampered with to leave in the middle of that multi-year deal is a successful path towards litigation, then I would fully expect many other schools to follow in a similar footsteps, because Wisconsin or Miami is certainly not the only one who's engaging in tampering in this landscape.
You got that right. What a mess. I bet you do a ton of these, don't you?
A good amount. They're all fun now.
Hey, thank you for coming on with us, Sam.
My pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Sam.
Feel free to reach out if there's anything else.
Oh, we'll probably take you up on it. Sam Ehrlich, sports college law, if you will, Boise State University. After the break, a few of our thoughts, and then we want some of yours. If you want to jump in on the lines, boy, we have had some interesting stuff today. You can go ahead and get in now at 615-553-0933. Red-blooded Americans who want to talk some sports on 94.9 The Fan.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
Are you ready to begin? Trevecca Nazarene University. From calling to becoming.
I trained my entire life to be the best. I was one of the fastest women in the entire country. But woke politics made me swim against a man, sharing the pool and the locker room. That's not just dangerous, it's degrading. Thank God for Marsha Blackburn. No one fights harder to protect us. Marsha Blackburn will always stand for strong women, because she's one of us.
I'm Marsha Blackburn, and I approve this message.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2025 season. Create a summer of memories at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, and more. Tickets are on sale now.
Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
25 The Game, 94.9 The Fan, or Sports Talk 830. You can hear it all. Just check theGameNashville.com for the full schedule. NASCAR lives here. Your sports live here on the Game Nashville Sports Network.
It's the George Plaster Show.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Man, is there a ton to get into. Wow. Crazy day on the show between Tony Basilio from Knoxville, who is always interesting, and Sam Ehrlich, who really gets into college sports law. There's a lot to kind of sort out. Here's what I'm going to do. I'll take a phone call first, and then we'll do a little bit more on our end, and then see if more of you have things you want to get into. Clay in Nashville, welcome into 94.9 The Fan.
George, are y'all at the Ford Ice Center today?
We are not.
Okay, because I was going to say I am literally right next to Bellevue right now, but I'm going to kind of go in a different direction today, George.
Okay, let's do it.
You're a BGA graduate. I'm a BGA cast-off. So my older brother, who is a 1970 graduate, sent me an email about a luncheon with Coach Bentley next Tuesday.
And yeah, I'm the one hosting it.
Okay. Could you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, this will be the second year that I've done this. And if you want me to put you on the list of people that are coming, I'll be happy to. I've really enjoyed getting to know Bobby Bentley. I've tried to, do my part as an alum to kind of spread the word a little bit. So I've hosted a luncheon each of the past 2 years. And this year, the luncheon will be at Sports and Social in Green Hills Mall.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to come.
Well, you know what? I'm putting your name on the list.
Yes. Just because I got run out of BGA, that doesn't mean I'm still not, potentially or partly at least a BGA Wildcat. The greatest high school in the mid-state, George, as we always say.
Absolutely. Oh, get over it, Billy.
Billy, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Clay. How are you?
I'm doing good. Hey, I was interested in, so Joey is leaving you guys, right? He's going to Sports Illustrated. Is that right?
Yeah, he'll still be covering Vandy, just not with Vandy 24/7. So wishing him well.
So, who would take his place? Would Brandon Bixby take his place, or who's going to take his place?
Well, we'll still have me, Chris, and Robbie on the beat, kind of all working together a little bit. I'm sure we'll have some intern help, just like we do here on the Plaster Show. But Joey's going to be tough to replace, but we're going to do our best.
What do you guys think about Vandy's second game is at Virginia Tech? The game last year was, a heck of a game because Vandy jumped out to a big lead, but then the third quarter, Vandy kind of had a lull and Virginia Tech caught up and even took the lead. But then Diego, as Diego does when he's healthy, he just kind of willed him to win, and they win in overtime. I think that's a really interesting game, playing up there. And I think that's a key game for Vanderbilt. And a friend of mine today said that Virginia Tech has lost a lot of players in the portal and things like that. So I was wondering if you guys knew anything about, kind of what to expect from Virginia Tech, meaning how tough of a game that'd be for Vandy.
Well,
that's going to be tough.
There are two things that hit you right off the bat. Number one, if Virginia Tech underestimated them a year ago, and they might have, that certainly will not happen this year. I'm sure Vandy has their full attention. The other thing, I've done a couple of football games there. Lane Stadium is a really tough place. I don't know if Billy, is that a day game or a night game? If it's a night game, it gets a lot tougher.
It'll be a night game.
Yeah, that will be a crazy environment.
Yeah, look, Virginia Tech, they had high expectations last year, Clay. They ended up kind of having a disappointing year. They finished 6-7, had a lot of close losses. Of course, Vandy was one of them. They've got Kyron Drones back. They'll still have a solid defense, but they lost a lot of guys, a lot of key players from last year's team. And I think if you're Vanderbilt, it's going to be hard to go up there and win that game, but I think they certainly can. They may even be more talented than Virginia Tech. But you're right, George. Brent Pry is going to do he's going to do everything he can to not let that happen again. A loss to Vanderbilt, a place that he's been at under James Franklin. But that being a night game, Clay, that makes it a little bit tougher.
I would think that he's probably, because they were looked at maybe as a dark horse, but they got a lot of preseason hype as a dark horse in the ACC. And then, like you said, they go 6-6 and lose their bowl game. So I would think there's a little bit of pressure on him as their head coach, wouldn't there be?
I think so. I think, you start the season with a loss to Vanderbilt, and they had a lot of really tough, close losses to, some average ACC teams last year. So, yeah, and he made some coaching changes. I want to say let go of Chris Marv as their defensive coordinator, which was a little bit of a surprise. So, yeah, there's going to be some pressure on him, not just that Vanderbilt game, but that'll be a big one because, if you're a Hokie fan, you don't want to see 2 straight losses to Vanderbilt, especially with it being out of conference.
The pressure is that they want to get back to Frank Beamer kind of football. They played for a national title when Michael Vick was there. They have aspirations of being way better than a 6-6 or a 7-5. And since they put that huge upper deck in Lane Stadium, man, you talk about a tough place now. Mm-hmm. Woo. Tell you what you don't want to do is play there in November. Gets a little chilly.
George, do you think Kelly listens to the show when he's not a part of it?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay.
No.
I thought I'd send a shout out to him, but if he's not listening, big deal.
He's out of state. I would be shocked if he's listening. Thank you for the call. Clay, I'll see you next Tuesday. I've got you on the list. Let's go Titans Bill. Titan Bill, welcome.
How are you doing, George?
I'm doing good. I hope you're doing good.
I am doing fine. And Billy Derrick, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good, Bill.
Well, great. Can I talk a little Titans with you, George?
Absolutely.
Okay. You know, you look at that quarterback group, I think in 2022, that had Hendon Hooker, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, and Bryce Young. All three of them ended up being busts. On the other hand, Hooker is still on the sidelines holding the clipboard for the Lions. One thing I was hoping that the Titans would do is maybe work out before the draft, work out a trade with the Lions and trade Jeffrey Simmons and maybe a draft choice to get Hendon Hooker. That's what I would have loved to have seen, but it didn't happen.
If you think for 1 minute that Jeffrey Simmons and a draft pick are what you'd have to give up for Hendon Hooker, please, come on.
Well, I believe Hendon Hooker would have been a fine quarterback for the Titans.
Oh, I'm not saying he might not. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong about that. We don't know. And as long as Jared Goff is in Detroit, he's never going to get that chance there, barring injury, which is really a shame. To be honest, I'm surprised Hooker hasn't gone to their front office and said, help me here. I want to play. I think I can play, but it wouldn't be for Jeffrey Simmons and a draft pick.
Well, all right. On another note, I'm looking for Treylon Burks to be cut before training camp starts. It wouldn't surprise me. Would it you?
Maybe a little bit in that, if they were going to do it, I'm guessing here they would have already done it. Don't know what the point is of waiting until, early July and then doing it when you would have had that opportunity earlier.
Because look, we have plenty of talented wide receivers, but I think that my main concern is going to be the offensive line, and they need to find them a pass rush. If they could do all that, they could surprise some people. The Titans could surprise some people, George. That's how I look at it from my perspective.
Okay, when you say surprise, tell me what you're thinking.
I just cannot see them having another losing season because, look, Brian Callahan is already facing the Glenn Fry, meaning by that, George Plaster, the heat is on. If he has another losing season, it's Pink Slip City. And that's a fact with my hand up.
Okay, well, I mean, if you've got your hand up, what more can we go with? Hey, I enjoyed this. Go ahead, Billy.
Let me get something in here. Titans ball. I know you're a Tennessee guy as well, and we're gonna miss Mike Keith with the Titans, but give me a little sample of what one of his is his touchdown call and sack call still gonna be the same?
It probably will, but it'll be very interesting if the Vols come victorious against Syracuse, which I believe they will. What is he going to say? Is he going to say, "Will the Big Orange gets it done again," or the Volunteers gets it done again?
Yeah, there may be a little too much orange in that crowd to figure out which one's which, although I got a feeling we're going to be able to. Syracuse way up there, Tennessee a whole lot closer to Atlanta. Bill, thank you. Happy 4th of July to you.
Okay, I hope you let me call you again.
Come on. Love to hear from you.
Okay. Bye, George.
We'll go to the break on that, and then we'll yap a little bit more about what all we have gotten into today, which has been pretty significant. This is 94.9 The Fan.
If you are paying too much for your health insurance, you know what? You need to contact the folks at Pancoast Benefits. Pancoast works with businesses and individuals to tackle the high cost of health insurance. Whether you're a business owner, large or small, self-employed, between jobs, or over the age of 65 and in need of a Medicare plan, Pancoast can help. They make understanding your benefits less difficult and more personal. So check them out today, pancoastbenefits.com, or call them at 615-292-3400.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun.
Are you ready to begin? Trevecca Nazarene University, from calling to becoming.
Tell me to chill out.
On the web at theGameNashville.com.
This team has strategically put themselves back in the mix.
Watch us on YouTube or download the Game Nashville app.
You have to make those plays.
Your sports live here on the Game Nashville Sports Network. It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
We are back on a Tuesday afternoon where we've had some crazy stuff going on.
Yeah, we've been a little bit everywhere today.
So, Billy, it seems to me the one thing that I think everybody can probably agree on is that ultimately in the transfer portal, when one group loses and another gains, that there's probably going to have to be some level of compensation that comes into this.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that for a while, and hopefully, it's gotten a little bit of a head start with the Grambling State head coach who came out, really was the first one to come out publicly and say, hey, we need a buyout here. We need something when we lose a player, to Georgia Tech or whoever it may be. So it does feel like to me it's going to have to. It's not going to come from the schools that are taking the players. Obviously, that they get the player and the school they stole that player from is sitting there with nothing in return. I don't know how you set this up. Obviously, there's got to be a percentage within that player's contract that allows the lower level school to be compensated in some way. And it may be small amounts, for a lot of situations, but for a Jackson State situation, let's give that example. When Deion Sanders left for Colorado and you lose Travis Hunter, you lose Shadur Sanders, you lose a bunch of kids. Jackson State shouldn't be sitting there empty-handed. And again, I think it goes further than just Jackson State too. Vanderbilt, when they lost a London Humphreys type, that was excruciating, and it's happened to other schools as well. It's happened in baseball with Georgia Southern. They're losing Chase Dolander, and everybody's doing it. How you do it, that's the big question, but that's got to happen at some point. But to me, it's going to have to start with the vocal minority of the group of five schools, and I mean, heck, maybe even some FCS schools that are getting hurt by this.
And I don't pretend to know what the real answer to the deal is. Is there some sort of arbitration that ultimately decides, okay, Tennessee, you got this kid from Rutgers. We believe that Rutgers is owed X being monetary, because you can't trade players. You can't ship some kid that doesn't want to be at Rutgers up there as part of the deal. So we're talking about shipping money. How you determine what's fair, I don't know, but it feels like it's a committee that ultimately would decide the compensation. And at some point, that's going to happen.
It has to. And, Kelly's talked about the little guys before, how, they're really struggling. I mean, look at a school like an MTSU. When Stockstill left, there were teams that Vanderbilt even took one of their players, and other Power 5 schools snatched up players. It happens every offseason. So again, to me, it's going to have to come from those group of five ADs, probably, that some of the commissioners of those conferences, to say, hey, this isn't right. But they don't have the leverage, though. That's also the tough part in this. Who's going to listen? Are they going to be heard? That's one of the big questions. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of the many issues right now, and somehow, we've got to get to a point where this is a lot smoother ride for the group of five schools, and even some of those smaller Power 4 schools.
To me, the other issue that we've talked about a little bit today, and we did it with Tony, is that the SEC has put out, and I don't think it's this is what you must do, but this is the suggested way we think you need to take that $20.5 million. Okay, for most of the schools, that involves about $2 million in scholarships. So subtract it down to about $18.5 million. What the SEC, and I may be wrong about the exact numbers, I don't have it here in front of me, but suffice it to say, I'm close, that football gets 75% of the money or thereabouts. Basketball on the men's side gets, I believe it was 15%. And then the rest of them just basically reach out for crumbs. And really my point to it is that there now all of a sudden is baseball's got something. Baseball has way more oomph than the SEC is giving it credit for when it says how to take the money. And I think there's going to be a point somewhere where a baseball coach and an AD are going to get into it. The baseball coach says, screw you, our program deserves more, and either you're going to give me more or I'm going to find greener pastures.
Yeah,
I think that day's coming.
I think it is too, and I've heard rumblings that it's already, some of those conversations have already happened. College baseball is a moneymaker now. I mean, it's not to the level of football or basketball, but we brought up the ratings for the College World Series this year, and I mean, they're holding up their end of the bargain. What for whatever that's worth. So your LSU. This may not apply to some of the group of five schools, but look, there's an argument. Coastal Carolina baseball should be getting the majority of that revenue share money, and they might be. That could be the case, but it's not going to stop with these coaches saying, okay, look, we won't go after this player because we're not going to go over our budget. right? That's good luck, if you're Danny White in talking with Tony Vitello, when he's asking for a little bit more for a certain player, because absolutely that they are not going to sit back and let these players, go. There was a good example of it. Landon Mack, decided to go to Tennessee instead of LSU. You're already seeing it, and maybe they've already happened, but yeah, they are not. They're not going to play second fiddle, especially if they've got a better program than a basketball program at that school, or even football.
One of the interesting things, and Kentucky's a great case, because I don't believe for a minute that Kentucky basketball is going to play second fiddle to anything in Lexington. Right. And in all honesty, over all of those years of greatness, it shouldn't. But here's one of the things that's interesting. What about the St. John's and the Villanovas and some of the schools? Now, Villanova does play football. I don't think St. John's does. I don't think Marquette does. What level of advantage do they have that virtually all of their NIL money can go in that sport because that's the big boy on campus?
Yeah. I mean, St. John's, Villanova, you just mentioned, and trust me, Villanova's football program is not going to, I don't think they're going to creep in very much in terms of the money that the basketball program is getting. But Seton Hall, UConn, right? I mean, UConn basketball, and those Big East schools in basketball are going to start really taking advantage of that. Whereas in the SEC, you've got a school like an LSU who has an elite football program, an elite baseball program. What's left for basketball? What's left for that basketball program?
It feels like the schools that are pretty good at everything, that don't have a Sisters of the Poor program, are going to struggle to figure out, how do we divvy this up? Like for instance, when you hear that Tennessee baseball is going to make less money than the Lady Vols, well, the Lady Vols have certainly earned the right over a long period of time with a lot of national titles under Pat Summitt. But most recently, Vitello has won a national title.
Mm-hmm.
Basketball, as good as they've been, they haven't won one. Football, it's been since Philip Fulmer. So it seems to me that the programs that are pretty darn good at everything are going to struggle to figure out how to make this work.
Yeah, Adam Sparks told us about that when we had him on a few weeks back, and he wrote a really good piece on, basically asking the question: Can Tennessee continue to be the everything school? Can they be as good as they've been in football? Can they continue to support Rick Barnes' program in basketball? And don't forget about baseball. Also, don't forget about the Lady Vols. And so you've got four programs there that are all sort of, the women's basketball team was in the Sweet 16. Baseball team was in the Super Regional. They're not just getting to the big dance and losing in the first round. These are winning programs. So I think, you may be better off, George, to be a Mississippi State type where you've got one or two that are elite, as opposed to fighting for relevancy for all four major sports. And I'm with you. Tennessee, can they continue on this trajectory? They've got the money, right? That's kind of the positive for them. But that battle between, because I think there is a battle to be had right now between the Lady Vols and Tony Vitello. And I think these coaches, they have their own set of donors that will give specifically to their programs, and that probably helps. But it's going to be tough, especially for an LSU. I'm sure they've categorized themselves as an everything school, and Texas as well. Alabama is another program who's really pretty good at three or four sports at a time. That's going to continue to get tougher. It's going to be interesting to see, is there a sport that drops off as a result?
Get ready. This is going to be a mess. This settlement that we were being told months ago, this is a landmark thing. Bull. It isn't anywhere close.
Yeah, and I know Sam, he was kind of the positive, glass half full there. And I asked him, is this a good starting point to sort of smoothing the grounds in the college sports landscape. He said he thinks this settlement was, but I'll kind of see that. I'll believe that when I see it. Yeah, it's just sort of deal.
Okay, Plaster Bet of the Day is coming up next. We need a victory, and we need it now on 94.9 The Fan.
This is the energy of electrification. Available Type S high-performance variant with nearly 500 horsepower and 278-mile EPA range rating. Choose from our complimentary charging packages so you can charge how you want. The all-electric Acura ZDX. This is the energy of innovation. Acura, precision-crafted performance. Range estimates for comparison purposes only. Actual range will vary.
Experience the thrill at Gary Force Acura, proud sponsor of the Nashville Predators. GaryForceAcura.com.
Save big at the Electronic Express 4th of July sale with huge deals in every department. Get cooking this summer with this Traeger grill, just $4.99. Or watch your favorite movies on this LG 55-inch smart TV, only $279. At Electronic Express, the more you buy, the more you save. Shop now and save up to an additional $1,200 on all appliances. 24 months interest-free financing? We've got that too. Shop in store or at electronicexpress.com.
They said if I got drunk,
What if I did coke?
I'd be one of the guys. They said meth would help me get through my exams.
They said synthetic drugs would give me a safe high.
They said sniffing glue was no big deal.
Totally safe.
I could party all night.
It would help me forget my problems.
He said he'd love me forever if I smoked crack with him.
They said I wouldn't get hooked after the first hit.
They said weed wouldn't lead to harder drugs.
They lied.
They lied.
They lied.
He lied.
Find out the truth about drugs.
Drugfreeworld.org.
Drugfreeworld.org.
Looking for your favorite sports?
How about sports? You follow sports?
We probably have it. Just log on to the Information Superhighway. They don't call it that anymore?
To start, press any key. Where's the any key?
Head to theGameNashville.com.
The password, we're in.
You'll find what time your game starts and what station it's on.
Oh, they have the internet on computers now.
That's what's up. Your sports live here.
What an age we live in.
On the Game Nashville Sports Network. Listen on the air.
So don't tell me to chill out.
On the web at theGameNashville.com.
This team has strategically put themselves back in the mix.
Watch us on YouTube or download the Game Nashville app.
You have to make those plays.
Your sports live here on the Game Nashville Sports Network.
Final segment on a Tuesday. Time now for Bet of the Day, brought to you by Bort Durham Injury Law. We take a quick look first at what happened last night, and well, it was a loss for the Yanks.
Yes, I'm aware.
Did not get it done. Terry's Yanks unable to pull through.
No, and they're not getting it done today either. Max Fried got hit harder than he's been hit most of the year. He's had a tremendous year. But it's also Canadian Independence Day, and the place is absolutely packed. The Rogers Center, formerly the Sky Dome, and the roof is open today. So happy Canadian Independence Day.
There you go. Where are we going tonight?
We're taking the Mets at home against Milwaukee. The Mets have, for the last 3 weeks, probably more like 2 weeks, been awful. And Philadelphia has overtaken them. This is a pivotal time for the Mets. They've got Milwaukee coming in, and then they have the Yankees coming in. This is the right time for Willie's Mets to turn it around, and I'm saying tonight they will get themselves a victory. How about that?
Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets. Okay, so we're done. Tomorrow on the show, Terry McCormick will be with us during the 4 o'clock hour to talk a little Titans. We'll see what Billy cooks up in the 3 o'clock hour. Until then, so long, everybody.